All right, so it's like April 4th, actually Sunday, April 4th, Easter Sunday. This is the second time we've gone in these hives. So really nice. 2 weeks ago, we checked to make sure everybody was alive. We found the queen in every hive. We found brood and eggs in every hive. So now we're going in and just doing a kind of more of a quick check, checking to see the brood pattern, making sure there's no swarm cells yet, making sure they have space. And then we have a few days of rain coming up. So we're gonna see if maybe we wanna give them a little bit of 2-to-1. To keep them going. So what I don't like to use a lot of smoke, but I just give it a couple puffs in the top and bottom entrance. Just kind of let them know we're here.
And we're giving them 1-to-1, not 2-to-1.
Oh yeah, 1-to-1 syrup, not 2-to-1. 1-to-1, so 1-to-1 by weight. Same amount of pounds of sugar to pounds of water, which I think works out to 20 cups of water for 10 pounds of sugar, something like that.
That's it.
It's like an easy ratio, but I think you can look that one up. So we gave them some of that last time we were in. As you can see, they've sucked down. Just like pop some holes in the top. They do the rest. It's a little makeshift inner cover. I need to make a real one. We upped this hive from a nuke to an 8-frame, so 5-frame nuke to an 8-frame pretty late in the season last year. So first thoughts, not a ton of activity going on up top. What we did with this hive 2 weeks ago is we took the bottom box and we put it up top. So this was stores in the wintertime. They ate through everything, and all of the brood was down below. I think there might have been a little in this box as well, but most of it was in here. So this makes sense. You can see they're just storing a little bit of nectar up here. Not a ton of activity. Small hive beetle walking around. You see that? These small hive beetles. Dead small hive beetle, best kind. These things were a pain in the ass last year. We have always seen small hive beetles, but we never saw nearly as many as we did last year. So I'm gonna make a note of that, and then I'm gonna put a trap in here, a beetle blaster trap in this. There might be one down below, but yeah, so they're just storing a little bit of nectar up top. It's good. Good to know they got space up there. I mean, I would love to see all activity in all 3 boxes at this point, but that is not quite realistic. So a little nicer here, little population. We're looking like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames covered. I'm not going to use smoke right now. The reason I'm not going to use smoke is when you use smoke, the queen's going to run away, and I'm going to want to see if she's maybe in the middle of all of this. But the best way I'm going to do that, I'm going to start from the outside. You never want to start where the bees are. Try to start on the outside and work your way in. And I always like to start with the 2nd frame in. Reason being, when you put the frames back, it's nicer to put a frame in between 2 than push a frame next to the sidewall, because if you kind of roll a bee, they're more likely to survive if they're being pushed into some comb than if they're pushed into a wooden wall. So they're just storing a little bit of nectar on this outside frame. That is exactly what I was expecting to see. I think we're gonna probably see that from 2 more of these. This is a little heavier. A lot more nectar in there. This is all fresh nectar too. Yeah, nectar and pollen. Always nice. And what I typically do is I'm always going to want to keep the brood together. So as I pull these frames, I'm going to move them down just 1. So I think we might start seeing brood on this, but everything's going to move down 1, and then when I check the bottom box below, everything's going to move down 1, and the cluster will stay in the same place, so to speak. These bees look very good. They're fat. They're big bees. I like I like my bees to be well fed. And I am seeing fresh eggs and 1 and 2 day old larvae. That is a great sign. So that means the queen has been here in the last couple days. So the eggs were laying flat, which would be a sign of an egg on day 2 or 3, and then just you see this little tiny milkiness to in the cell, and that milkiness is royal jelly, which is fed to the larva for their first few days, fed to the queen her whole time in the cell. But and this is a nice pattern. You got the brood and the setter capped, then on the outside you've got larva, and on the outside of that you got some new eggs. This is great. Same thing here. So when I talk about the cluster, you know, the capped brood is going to be in the center, and you're going to want to keep that all together. So you see I'm moving these frames down the way I am. It's to keep that cluster together. Think of it like a football. The capped in the middle, and then it works its way out, and then it's a little, so it's like a rugby ball or a football in shape. Really liking this. Really nice pattern. See a few holes in the center. Those most likely are just bees being hygienic. They hopefully are being hygienic, and they just didn't like what was going on and they chewed those out. Really nice pattern. You see these bees are being pretty gentle. I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's 60, I don't know, 2 degrees out here. Not much wind at all. These bees just, they don't mind me being around. But every decision you make, you know, you want to keep the bees in mind. You know, I'm working slowly, working calmly. Nice pollen on this frame. See any of that, but beautiful pollen going on. You don't want to get too close with the camera. It doesn't, anything like under a foot isn't that clear, I don't think. But this is wonderful. So I'm gonna put that one back. I'm gonna take this original frame, which just had a little bit of nectar being stored, and I'm putting that back in the same position it was in. It was just, instead of that 2 spot, it was this 2 spot to start. So I just moved everything down 1. I expect this next box is going to look similar to that one, but we will see. So similar thing, I do have a beetle trap on that. So this was the top box in the winter 3 stack. So same thing I did last time. I'm gonna start from the second one in. It's also nice to always pull frames when they're not too heavy. This is still honey, capped honey that was from winter. Same thing on this outer frame. I don't even need to pull that one. Same thing, they're storing some pollen, storing some new nectar, and then like they're so based on what I'm seeing here, I don't see a need to continue feeding this hive. Big old small hive beetle right here. Oh, another one. They're very easy to kill. Climb right onto you. Another one. Not liking these small hive beetles. So it's not quite warm enough yet, but we're going to try some new management techniques to deal with small hive beetles. So I'm going to keep with the beetle blaster traps, but we're going to have nematodes in the mix. So this is natural comb, just kind of cool to see it. We'll let the bees build out themselves. tends to be sometimes, oh, there's fresh eggs too. I didn't even notice there's some fresh eggs in this. Nice. So, keeping that cluster together, put things back in the right order is key. There we go. These are hatching out and being backfilled with fresh eggs on this side. And guess who I just found? Your Royal Highness, the Queen. She's a beaut. This queen's awesome. She's so pretty. She was a fall queen, so she was made and mated in September. So she's young, but what's so great about queens that come out of, that happen in the fall, is that they just lay. They coming out like gangbusters. So I'm gonna set her aside. I'm gonna set her aside right now. That way I know the queen is there. She's protected. And I can pull this last 1 or 2 frames. Just make sure I like what I'm seeing. This hive is going to take off. This is interesting. This looks like a frame almost entirely of drones. So what can happen is when you have them make their own frames naturally, they may turn an entire frame into drones. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna knock all these bees off. I'm gonna knock all these bees off and I'm gonna freeze this frame. And then after 2 days, a day or two in the freezer, I'm gonna cut open these cells and I'm gonna knock them out and see what kind of mite population is going on in here. I don't want to get rid of, I wouldn't do this necessarily, except for there's 2 frames that are like this. So I'm gonna sacrifice one. I do want more drones. I need drones in the out and about because, you know, we've got all these hives here and there's a couple hives on properties nearby. So I want good genetics. I like this queen. I want her genetics to be passed on through drones, but I'm going to take this opportunity to do a little integrative pest management and hopefully knock out some mites. So they're storing some nectar, and these are all drones. So you see they're raised, little raised pattern here. You can just tell they're a little bit bigger. See them on that side. And the mites are smart enough. The mites know that if they are in, the mites, Varroa mites, procreate inside the cell, and they know that these cells are going to be in there for 24 days. So they're capped for like an extra, you know, 4 or 5 days. Which means they have more time to procreate. They actually can get a whole nother cycle of eggs and baby Varroa when they are inside of a drone cell. So good and bad. Right now, there would be a lot more mite population in this drone than in the worker cells. So I'm gonna go freeze this, grab another frame, put it in there, and yeah, I'll be right back. All right, so I just got that drone frame, put it in the freezer. I'm gonna replace it with a brood frame from that was in the freezer and then taken out of the freezer. The reason we put them in the freezer is just any pests, so like small hive beetles, things like that. Anything that's in there, or eggs, they'll freeze, die off, and we know we're good to go. You never would want to do that if, say, there was a disease that we thought was, you know, like a chalk brood situation, or not a chalk, a foul brood situation. But these hives are looking very healthy. So I'm gonna put the hive back together now. The queen I'm gonna put her back to where she was. So I'm gonna just be very safe. Move everybody over. I'm gonna go ahead and just find her again, make sure she's on. Yep, there she is. She is so beautiful. We're gonna have to name her. I'm gonna check out her genetics too. We keep our records in an app called what is it, B Plus, Kara?
Yeah, B+.
B Plus. We started using it last year or the end of the year before, and I really liked it. We used to just take everything and put it on paper. All right, so what I just did, put the queen back, and I had taken a frame of brood. So I mean, it was drone brood, but the frame was right here. The frame right next to it has brood on it, so I don't want to put an empty frame in its place and then have a separate, basically have a space between brood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one over. It's the beetle trap. You can see the dead beetles, they get stuck in here. I think I'm going to move this up to the top box. They tend to like the top a little more. No, I'll put it in the second box, because they do want pollen. They like food. So although they hide up top, they tend to go down below to get their resources. So another beautiful frame. A lot of pollen on this one too. Oh, we can see it falling out. Did you see all the pollen falling out when I tipped it? Sorry, girls. So much pollen coming in. Holy crap. Look at them all. You can just see it. That must just be the frame with all the pollen. They're really liking the store. So now I'm going to put that empty frame, we'll just put it on the outside here. There's another frame to lay in. And then this last frame stores cat. So just put that on the very outside, and look at that. Beautiful. I'm not going to feed them again. They have enough stores on their own. We don't need to be giving them artificial food. I'm going to go ahead and put this beetle blaster over here. So the beetles crawl into this to escape the bees, and then hopefully they get stuck in the liquid that's in there and they can't come out. They lay their eggs in the hive usually, and then they hatch out and they crawl into the ground. They go into the ground, and then once they emerge as beetles, they go right back in the hive. Although small hive beetles can fly a couple miles distance, which means they're not necessarily coming from the ground below the hive they're in. So she's all closed up. We're not going to refill that. Good looking hive. Just happy with everything I just saw. Coming along nicely. They have plenty of room in this top box, so I'm not worried about putting a super on quite yet. I try to manage the space where I don't want to give them too much space, especially we do have some overnight lows getting, you know, last night was like 32 or something. So I like to keep them tight, but once we start seeing more dandelions, right now there's like 10 growing in our yard. Once we see them everywhere, it's go time. Super will go on, and that'll just be for honey. I'll never take anything they store in these bottom boxes. That is always going to be theirs. Yeah, this was a good second choice, second inspection.